No, I just meant the beers. We don't have to get into the event. I just meant it looked like you had a good time.
You know, it's been a long one if Chad had a fucking beer.
It was 52 rounds in.
It was a good bit, though, wasn't it?
It was a good gag, yeah.
We didn't even plan the gag. I think I made the comment on the cast, and then Andre came out with the beers as per the request of Sebastian. So they made it happen.
Shout out to the Romanians.
Yeah. Just like with everything else, Chad, you did it first, and then everyone copied it.
Well, we didn't. We just were making a gag, you know, like because the game was going on. The people were having a good drink. The crowd was nice and interactive, which was fun. The Romanian people were lovely. So yeah, it was good. But
that's
nice
the difference. Like when someone like you does it, it's a gag. Like Jason could never pull it off because everyone would say just, Jason just finding an excuse to drink on the job. Of course, Jason couldn't last an hour without a drink. Jason this, Jason that. You know.
I think it'd be only you. saying that.
Let's see, guys, leave a comment on the video if you would think the same thing. Or maybe it is just me. Is
Jason an alcoholic? Let us know.
Yeah, fun. Let's crowdsource the intervention.
Jason, you were doing something that I thought was fun, though. I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah.
It looked like you were playing golf on the ice. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a lake in town that freezes in the winter, obviously. So for like charity, they do like once a year, they do like a ice golf drive. They set up like 9 holes on the ice and you go out on the lake and you play 9 holes in like the frigid cold, drink a beer, you know, hit some balls in the snow.
Drink a beer.
Yep, there we are. I stepped right into that one, didn't I?
Have a shot, you know, warms you up. Shot of
Actually,
whiskey warms you up. You don't want to freeze over there on the lake.
You might appreciate this.
Frozen.
I did bring a flask of rakia and had a couple nippers, you know. Yeah, I needed that rakia blanket.
You were not cold.
It was fun though, man. They drill like little like 4-inch holes into the ice as like the kind of I guess the hole that you have to put into. But it's hard. It's intense. I'll tell you this. Golf is fucking stupid. I've never played a sport that is more designed to make you feel like a complete idiot. Like, I'm not obviously in the best shape of my life, but I consider myself a reasonably athletic person who's talented enough at most athletic endeavors. Golf is not one of them. That will make you feel like a complete moron with no coordination. And I do not understand why people enjoy it.
Isn't golf like a lot of tech? You need to, you can't just come in and take a swing. That has nothing to do with, it has very little to do with power and a lot more with
I'm not looking for actual fucking detailed analysis. I'm just saying as a general concept, fuck golf.
Wow.
All right, Jason.
That's what I'm got.
I guess it's a professional deformation for me.
That's what it is.
I feel like playing on the ice, though, there's a lot more things that go wrong. Like,
It's
who
fun,
likes
though.
golf? Nothing likes golf. Automatic likes golf.
Tim likes golf. Rambo likes golf.
Rambo likes golf.
Rambo's
really?
brother is a professional golfer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Trace likes golf. He went to a golf tournament with little Mr. Dinkles.
Yep, they got their own personalized golf bags, which is funny because I don't think either of them golf. They just have the bags now.
Maybe they could start. It could be something that they could look on bringing into their lives.
True.
I think Dinko has a lot of things higher on his list than getting around to golfing.
Well, he is a tall boy, so what are you saying? Like climbing beanstalks, or like what taller things would Dinko be doing?
I think just early 20s, single.
So fucking. You're saying fucking.
Just fucking. Just Dinko's out there slinging dick a little bit in Poland, a little bit in Northern Ireland, Ireland, airports. I don't know.
Airports.
Yeah, airports.
Who knows?
Yeah, you got those sleep rooms now,
Bloody hell. Connor had to use one of those yesterday. He had a 9-hour layover in Munich before he was flying home.
Yeah. And Connor was doing something. Yeah, I've had to use those. I've had to use those as well. They're nice, actually.
I used it in Munich one time. I think like for 4 hours, something like that. But this is why people get up in my grills, man, about not having an alliance. And the reason I don't have the reason he had to wait for 9 hours is because he's flying with an alliance. So it's like if I just want to get from point A to point B as quickly as humanly possible, I avoid all of that nonsense. There's no points, of course, and you have to pay for everything, but you get there quickly, and my time is valuable.
I mean, listen, if you have money, you don't need points. I mean, it sounds kind of dumb, but my point being, if you're going to fly business every time, regardless of, if you're going to pay for it every time, then why would you care which airline you're flying with. You're going to fly with whatever's makes the most sense, right? But if you don't want to pay every single time, then accruing points and then sometimes just being able to upgrade with miles and having some of these perks, even when you're flying economy, it is nice. It does. It hits the spot. It does.
Yeah,
the trick.
I'm not gonna do what you guys are doing.
Like I don't need to go into a sleeping pod for 4 hours. I can just go into one of the lounges.
That's true.
They have a quiet area with like single beds where you can sort of take a nap if you want. Like, have things like that. Nice little perks.
Everybody loves a perk.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have anything like crazy goofy to start with today.
I think for you, it's just like
drained.
you can't. I think in your life you can't handle one more thing to keep track of. I think you're at full capacity.
I've been on top of my things better this year.
Exactly. No. I'm not saying you're bad at it. I'm just saying like you have a lot going on. So that's one extra thing is just not worth it for you.
Yeah. Is there anything goofy
Unlike
or
Jason.
fun?
Jason can't do half the things you did.
Yeah. He's not in the mood at the moment.
I don't know.
Look,
I'm just trying to cheer Chad up a little bit, but Jason's not in a great mood either. So I guess I just have to, utilize some self-deprecating humor. Fun things. We left the baby with her grandma for the weekend for 2 nights, so we got a taste of, how it is to not have a kid.
Well, you're about to have 2.5 weeks of that.
It felt so good. Well, just me, yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but it's kind of unfair, I guess. I don't know.
It's not unfair. You're earning the money. You're out there. You're grinding hard, Yanko. You're in the trenches.
That's what I say, Chad. But it's always like, yeah, but then this and this, that, and that. It's it never stops. It never stops.
Jason, do you have any good excuses when you leave? Are you like, hi, honey? Do you do anything special?
To what, take away the sting of departure?
Yeah.
No, not really. There's nothing you can do. I send some flowers back occasionally if there's a moment. I leave some notes, somewhere. I've done that once, not very often.
Wow, that's thoughtful.
Oh shit, Chad! I saw. Did you see that? It was all a fucking ruse.
Which?
Your gal getting pregnant. It was all a lie.
Yeah, of course. Do everything
all
for
a
the headlines.
publicity stunt.
She's paying for someone else's IVF though now. She styled it out. She styled it out really well. I think because the controversy kicked off that she faked it, she turned it into like a charitable thing of, now that I'm getting so much more media attention, I'm going to take all the money I've earned from this and pay for someone else's IVF journey.
Sounds like something Jake Lucky would do.
Jesus. But I don't know if she's
not get fucked by 1,000 guys in 24 hours. Like.
Yeah, of course not. I definitely wouldn't do that. Yeah, I don't know if it was like a premeditated thing, because fair play, but I think she styled it out either way.
Yeah, OnlyFans and pornography, really everyone's favorite topics. How are you getting so much traction in 2020? I guess it makes sense. We had a woman
it does
who
make sense.
Spoke about spitting on a dick, and that was top of the world for a little while there. The Huck Tour girl.
Oh yeah. That's died out pretty quick though. One crypto scam and it all comes crumbling down.
Just one rug pull and that'll be it. Yeah.
That fucking spitting on a dick empire that she built up, it's all come crumbling down.
Which we don't even know if she really did. She just had the comment. So
yeah, she just made a funny comment. It was cool.
What can we do about it?
Yeah.
All right, let's get in the Counter-Strike, gentlemen. We're floundering today. We got nothing. There's
no fun was had.
Well, I haven't come in like on a high. Yesterday, I traveled early, so I didn't get much sleep. So I had a nap throughout the day, and then I stayed up late playing Face It. And then I've woken up today, and I've gone, all right, well, I have to do 7 loads of laundry because I'm going to leave in a day and a half's time. So it's just there's a lot of stuff going on. It's not really recharging my batteries. It's just fucking hoping it doesn't rain. That's essentially life at the moment.
I know the feeling. I've got a similar kind of day ahead of me as well.
Well, what like you got to pack? Just pack
laundry
all your
as well,
t-shirts,
and then I'm packing.
Guys.
Yeah. Just packing t-shirts. It's gonna be easy. I gotta go. I have a meeting with the lawyer after this for a living will and trust. That's the kind of day I'm gonna be having.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
it's the liver, isn't it?
Yeah, setting up all the bank accounts and properties and a trust for the baby. So if we die, it's all set up to pass on to the baby.
I wonder what happens if I die. Right? Like I have nothing. So, well, no, I have things, but I have nothing set up. So if I die, what happens to my stuff? Does this go to my parents?
I mean, I'm not as knowledgeable of Australian estate law as
Well, I
I
live
used
in
to be.
Malta, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, that'd be but the stuff you own is that you own something in Australia.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm assuming that would default to the closest relative.
Which would be my parents.
Yeah, it would have to go through the courts and everything like that for them to prove they're the closest relative, but they would eventually get it.
Okay, that's good that they'd eventually get it.
Eventually.
Glad they'd eventually get it. That's great. All right, well, where do we want to start with today's conversation, lads? We can wrap up Cluj. We got Pro League coming up. There's been some not so interesting stuff in the news, really. There's some more Valve stuff with the ranking model. Boros was signed to GG How. I know Yanko was really excited about that one.
Yeah.
I guess
absolutely.
I guess with the Valve ranking stuff, it's kind of like, can we just be done with like long multi-month tournaments now? Can that just be
the more recent one?
Yeah, because they changed it now to fix that Gamer Legion loophole where you don't get your points until you're eliminated. So actually going further in the event hurt them in terms of VRS points. But now it kind of ruins I know this one is in tier 2, the ECL, which is like a multi-month thing, but we've had those before in tier 1, which have pretty much gone away. But I think it's time in tier 2 as well, just to get done with those long multi-month leagues. They don't make any sense.
Yeah, I think if we were just to think, what would be a positive of a lengthier league? I'm trying to think if anything kind of comes to mind.
I actually
ECL stuff. I mean,
yeah, but I don't have a positive for why you would want to have a tournament that lasts from January to March or whatever it is, over 2 to 3 months. Like I don't actually see a positive to it.
well, I think if it's a league, right, and a lot of teams in there and having to schedule everything, and maybe teams having to leave for tournament, to have that flexibility. I get it. It's just now with the Valve stuff, it's kind of tough, right?
Well,
like you either have to adjust it so that there's, mini seasons and then there's updates, or like every whatever. Figure out a way that it still counts. Because I saw someone tweet about it, how potentially it's screwing with some of the teams when it comes to the MRQs for NA. Right, and some of those teams are losing points now because it's not counted the same way or whatever.
So they don't count the points of ECL until ECL completely ends, but it ends after the cutoff point.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
don't get the points for ECL by the time the cutoff point comes around.
Exactly.
Which I
That's
mean is
stupid.
like maybe you can reorganize it. Maybe you can reorganize it in the future so it ends before the cutoff point. But like again, I don't see the point of having a multi-month long league. Like it would almost be better to have like 2 or 3 week-long events or just have it set up differently. I mean,
I think normally with the league, so if I'm just thinking about it, right, because what you're saying is sensible, but I think for lower, and I guess if we're talking tier 3, tier 2 type of stuff, then this is the angle I'm coming at it from. This is not necessarily fully salaried professionals, maybe more like semi-professionals would probably be a better angle to go. And then if those semi-professionals are needing to find income to live and then also still get to play because it's just playing from Counter-Strike, they can't make enough money. The potential for you to be able to reschedule matches, and in a lengthier league, the days are not going to be as tight, right? So if we take away the ability to have any leagues, this is just one thing I'm thinking right now, is maybe it'd be hard for people to play in general, because we only usually, or at least I'll just speak for myself, I'm only usually looking at things from the mega elite or the very top, right? Yeah. And there's never any time constraints or problems with those guys because this is their job. They do it full time. They get paid very well. So worries about like being in an event or doing a week-long event. But if you're someone who's studying, or if you're someone who is working a part-time job as well as like trying to pursue Counter-Strike semi-professionally, then I think having the flexibility of a league up until the point of like a finals or whatever is actually pretty good for those type of people.
So some benefit in terms of being able to move around a schedule around to the things you have going on outside Counter-Strike.
I'm just trying to get in touch with the common man, Jason, and I don't know
that's
if
fair.
I was just trying to think.
That's a fair point. But I also feel like if you don't run a league across 3 months, if your event is just a week long and you have multiple week long events, if ECL turned into like a 4-day long format or something, I don't know exactly everything that would go into it, but you'd have less conflicts because you'd have shorter actual just bursts of Counter-Strike instead of drawn out.
But couldn't the thing be, because I understand what the reason they're not picking like a hard time to do this, and they're making sure that events have come to their conclusions. If you picked a hard time in Europe, then that hard time, there'd probably be matches going on in Asia, or there'd be matches going on in America, right? If they picked a hard cutoff, the whole thing was it didn't make sense that in the middle of a day of matches that there would be a cutoff point that would affect the rankings so drastically that then that would impact who got invited to what tournament. Couldn't they just have something for like leagues? So it's a different thing. But if it is a league that's running over a longer period of time, couldn't you have something that does weigh in for the results at that point after? Because we're talking at the low end. We're talking at the low end of these scenes. We're not talking at the high end. And I feel like if we just focus everything only to the top end, then we're going to cause ourselves some issues, because we need to make sure that the tier 2 and tier 3 scenes still have possibility. So yeah, I think there was something that Nomad tweeted in reply to Striker. That's Nomad from HLTV. He tweeted in reply to Striker saying, should you like HLTV ranking consider the matches but not the achievement part of it until the event finishes? If no changes are made, long-running leagues just have to go away, I guess. So the second part is him just saying that if Valve are sticking with what they've come up with, then it's pointing in the direction of what you're saying. But I mean, 4 months does seem like an awfully long time. 4 months is probably if you broke it up into 3-month blocks, right? That would be 4 seasons over the course of a year. 4 seems like a lot. 4's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's some middle ground that can be found, right? Where if they still wanted 2 leagues, they have to be over shorter periods of time.
How long was the why is this name eluding me right now? I'm going to feel like an idiot when I figure it out. What was the name of the semi-pro the We Play Academy League? How long did that season actually take?
Idea.
Do you know? Was it like 3 weeks or a month or something like that?
I don't know. I never worked for We Play.
I didn't either. Yeah. But that'd be an interesting thing to think about, because I don't know. The way I think about it too is like, because you just said we have the perspective of the elite, like the top down. But even when like Pro League was multi-month long event, when it was like online and LAN, and even when we've seen like long-term season ideas tried to be executed, there's no continuity. It's like the same issue with like Blast's old format, where like you kind of had a season of 3 events, but since they were so spread out, you can't have continuity. So it feels like there's just never any point to doing those longer term formats.
Yeah, I think because they tried to tie everything together throughout the season, right? So the group stage would then flow into if you didn't qualify there, you'd go into the showdown. If you did, then you go to the final. But it didn't make any sense.
I mean, the showdown or the group stage was in January. The showdown was in like April, and it'd be like, remember back to 3 months ago when they played like this, and it was just like, yeah, but there's no point in even having this conversation anymore.
Yeah, that's a TO classic of trying to tie the story together in their own
isolated way.
Exactly, and we know how that seems to go. You're better off embracing the bigger picture. But yeah, I think the problem is Valve have made a fix to solve a problem that did affect a team at the upper level, but now this has had implications on smaller regions and everything like that. So it probably just needs a circle back, a look at the formats definitely, to just kind of discuss what does and doesn't make sense in the current ecosystem. Because also, like, the thing is, we want to have the best case for the ranking, but we also want to make sure that people aren't pushed out of being able to try and compete in Counter-Strike at different levels and potentially climb up the ranks, right? That's the last thing I'd imagine Valve would want to do. So, that probably just needs to be thought about a little bit more as well. So it's nothing too insane, but this is it, right? There's going to be lots of this. There's going to be adjustments. Then people are going to come in and they're going to say, oh, this fuck this, or this changed. This is the exact reason why Valve changed very little with the game. Right? Like, because one thing has a big impact on a lot of other things that might not be considered. So they only tweak these little levers every now and again. And with this ranking, it needs to happen a little bit quicker just because of the major and everything like that. And by doing so, you're seeing the impact of a lot of these changes. But it's just, again, because of our perspective, we just get to sit back and comment on it and see it all unfold. So we're less directly impacted by it. So we just get to see as it all goes. But yeah, it'll continue to iron itself out, and it will have impacts on one thing or another. So we just keep on plowing through, I guess.
I think it's probably going at a good pace.
Yeah.
The amount of updates and like small tweaks and changes, so it gets ironed out. And I think it won't be until the Austin Major is over where we can really look back and say, all right, some of these things were good, some of these things are bad and need to be addressed. right? And some of it is just going to be the nature of the circuit. I mean, like you had in Cluj with teams deciding to skip out the tournament, losing some points. Other teams obviously get the opportunity to win all that prize money and leapfrog them. It feels like with the result that Astralis had, that unless they have some royal fuck up, like they've secured themselves a major spot with the run in this tournament. Which
I don't think they're at EPL,
they
right?
missed the last two. They're not.
No, so there could be some implications there if a VP at EPL, VP are not at EPL either. Okay, so yeah, this is where it's going to start coming down to the detail. But they should be in Lisbon. Let me double check.
They are.
Astralis are in Lisbon, right? So yeah, unless Lisbon's going to be the big defining one now that these new changes have come in, because it would have been before that, it would have been during PGL Bucharest that the cutoff would have been, but now that this new thing that's coming from Valve, that won't matter at this point. It'll be after Lisbon. We'll essentially know most of the. I guess we'll know almost. We should know all of the teams, right? At that point, who are going to be qualified, and then it's just down to the MRQ and how that's all going to be sorted. So, yeah, that's the big thing to focus on at the moment. And then stepping back, like you said, after Dallas, after Austin, we'll have a better perspective on it all. But also, I think I would even be holding out until after the second major of the year, because then we'll have had a proper full season worth of Counter-Strike going into that to be able to see what it really looks like. So I think the second major of the year will give us even a better indication of all of that. So I think it's interesting in the fallout from Cluj, right? Because Navi dropping so low, and the way that people like knee jerking about this ranking is shit. I just think people don't understand what the ranking is trying to achieve, right? It's essentially meant to be closer to a power ranking. It's over a 6-month period. It has a harsher decay, and it's just meant to collect it's not meant to say like this is the number one guaranteed best team in the world. Whereas HLTVs, I think, is more meant to go from that angle, right? Like HLTVs is like, these guys are the best team in the world right now, right? Whereas I think Valve are just making sure that they can collect the best teams, right? Doesn't matter if you're 1 to 10 or whatever, but just the best teams. It obviously does matter because of where you're going to come in the major or whatever. But I don't think it's meant to be like pinpoint accurate in that sense, because
it doesn't care if you're the number 3 seed or the number 5 seed. It just cares that you're one of the best 5 teams in the world.
Yeah, and obviously there's things that people look at and they go, well, Mongols is number 3, but that's because of the prize money of events that they were winning late last year. So we need to see how this kind of all shakes out over a longer period of time. And again, there needs to be more tweaking to the mechanisms, because I don't like some of the stuff that happened with obviously the start of the year and certain teams getting high rankings and invited to events that they never should have been invited to. So those things need to be worked out at some point. Or if they solve themselves, then we are seeing the process work. But yeah, it's the fallout right now is this is the impact of, if you're a team who's on the fringe, if you skip an event and other teams around you do good, you will fall in the rankings.
Dude,
and now there's more pressure.
Liquid is 15th.
Yeah, so for them, it only matters about being top 5 in America, I'm pretty sure. They just need to be top 5. And right now they are
second.
In America, second. Yeah, so
Pain
as long as they don't fall out of that, they're all good.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we'll have to see how it works in regards to, now they're the 15th seed. Like, you go to a tournament like Pro League or Blast Lisbon, okay, Pro League is different because teams see themselves, but you're going to have to play like Vitality at the start of the tournament.
Sure, it's tougher runs.
Like, the runs are going to be just tougher. And then what happens if, this is what everyone is sort of figuring out, but, maybe Furia, and maybe there's a South American tournament, region locked.
Sure.
That's actually ranked, and there you have Furia, Pain, you have all these teams that are in the Americas, and all of a sudden they managed to get some points that Liquid can't. And Liquid is playing these tier 1 tournaments, having tough runs because they're seeded low. Now they're on the brink of not being in the top 16 to get invited to these tournaments, right? So sure, right now, like, they're fine, they're in the top 5 for the Americas, but I don't know, maybe it can go south real fast.
Here's my counter to that at the moment, because they have invitations all the way up until fucking Dallas. This is my problem with how the invites are being done. Is I feel like it's way too early. Like we already have all the teams picked for Dallas, right? So right now it's Vitality, Eternal Fire, G2 FaZe, the Mongols, Maus, Falcons, Liquid, right? So Liquid agreed to go, and when they would have been invited, they would have been higher in the rankings at that point. But like it feels like they're invited way too early before the event, and people will say, "Oh yeah, but visas and this and that." It's like, well, then maybe we shouldn't hold events in countries where visas are going to be such a big issue. Like that for me is already a problem. They're in Melbourne as well. So in terms of what you're talking about, Yanko, those impacts, we might not even see those until the invites for Cologne go out.
I was going to say after the break, probably.
But the invites for Cologne will have to go in before the major, wouldn't they?
Yes, they could be out of it by then.
Yeah, so you won't see the impacts till after the
It
season.
seems like it's a little bit too laggy, the everything. Like the invite, like you made a good point just now. The fact that then the Dallas is 2 weeks before the major, 2.5 weeks, let's say. So if that's already said, then the only thing you're playing for is obviously the major, which is the big one, and that's in April. And after that, you're set. But if they do start not having, if they don't have good results, then that will start affecting invites for next season. And also, it might have the snowball effect, where it becomes real bad real fast because there's no mechanisms for you to play at these tournaments. I mean, none of them do have wild card except for Blast Rivals or
Rivals have 4. They have like one for EU, one for NA, one for South America, and one for Asia, I'm pretty sure.
And sure, they'll probably use it on Liquid, but again, kind of, if you fall down to that, I mean, that's slim pickings. And does then Liquid as an organization say, well, fuck it, we have to accept these PGL invites?
Yeah.
Because other teams supposedly won't. Some of them will be skipping it. So then there's the opportunity for you.
Yeah, that's another big conversation too, right? And that's one that I got HLTV a little bit later tonight, so I guess we pre-record, and then this will go out whenever it goes out. But I'm doing HLTV confirmed tonight, and that's going to be a big topic. I already had a conversation with Striker and Prof about it, because the way that this seems to be misunderstood at the moment is like it's the TOs fighting each other, and they're like doing these sneaky things. Now, they may be doing these sneaky things, but as by Valve's rules, anything that you are using to incentivize teams to come to your tournaments needs to be public, right? So Blast do it's not an appearance fee. I forget the term for it, but it's like if you qualify for the event and you're like 1 to 4, you get this much appearance money. If you're 5 to 8, you get this much appearance money, right? Whereas ESL are doing the club money, which is semantics, but it's just the prize pool, making sure that goes to the organization as opposed to the players. They're also doing that revenue share thing, which says that you can't skip 3 events over 2 years, essentially, and you can't
not more
skip
than 2 in 1 year.
Yeah. But that's if you want to be eligible. You don't have to do that, right? The Blast also have the frequent flyers, same thing. It's with skipping events, and if you want to be eligible, you can be eligible. If you don't want to be eligible, that's up to you. You can make that choice as an org. And then the thing is, with PGL Cluj happening, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, why aren't the big teams here when it's such a big prize pool?" Well, it's because those teams are the teams who were primarily, because Spirit wasn't. Oh, actually, did Spirit become a Blast partner team towards the end there?
I think they did that 1 year deal or something,
thing,
didn't that? Yeah, that like 1 year. Yep.
So there was, but most of the other teams, so Vitality, Na'Vi, Liquid, G2, Furia, they were partner teams, right? And they are orgs who apparently want to make sure that they have these guarantees from the TOs for their business model to work, right? Whereas PGL aren't offering that. PGL are saying, come in, win the prize money, and work out the split with your fucking players. Like, it's up to you to work out. Exactly. That's what PGL is saying. So PGL have picked their business model. Blast have picked their business model. ESL have picked their business model. But it's boys, it's the orgs that are the bad guys. These fucking orgs, they're the bad. You know how I was saying, I just wanted to be 5 guys.
Don't even do this. Don't even do this.
These are the bad guys. Yeah,
Don't
Jason,
even do this.
100%. These are the bad guys, bro. They're the bad guys.
They're not bad guys. Don't label them bad guys. That's a terrible mentality to have.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Take this, mate. Take this for a second.
I'm not saying they don't cause problems or cause issues, but labeling the bad guys as
they're the bad guys.
They're not the bad guys.
They're the bad guys.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so Prof said this to me, and I thought this was really good. He said, if tomorrow, if the tournament organizers and the players disappeared, there'd be no tournaments. if the orgs disappeared tomorrow, there'd still be players and there'd still be tournaments.
Yeah.
Get these fucking orgs out of here, Jason.
Stop. You can't make that leap. That's crazy.
They're the ones who are pressuring PGL. They're the ones who are choosing not to go to PGL's events because they're trying to leverage PGL.
I agree. I think it's a bad decision. But you know what? You know it's going to bite them in the ass because they're going to go down this road, and the first thing that's going to happen is the first team that misses out on a major because they didn't go to a couple PGL events and they lost the points, and they didn't get the points from that tournament. Teams are going to break off. They've chosen their route. I still think there's positive that these organizations provide to players and can provide further to the scene in the future. I think at the moment their business model is struggling. And yeah, this is, in my opinion, not a great decision on their part. But as soon as they're punished by it, it's going to change.
But here's the next problem, because you just brought up the key point. The key point with all of this is the business model. All of those orgs are just like ESL. They don't actually know what the fuck they are, and Blast as well. They don't know what they are. They don't know what they're doing. They're like, how can we have as many different revenue streams as possible to keep this boat afloat, which has been sinking since day one?
They're getting too big too fast, and they don't actually have a good foundation. Most of them. I shouldn't say all of them as a general concept, but yeah.
They need Ozempic. Yeah. That's a great topical joke. Anyway, but the thing is, they don't know what they are. So what they're doing is they're now putting pressure on one of the entities, which is the TOs, which we know rarely make money on events until recent history. Only in the last couple of years did TOs start making money on majors. PGL, they're in a really strong position to make money on events because they run more of a tight-knit ship, right? They don't have like a big social media team. They're not making a shitload of content. They're not building a fucking watch party platform called Blast TV or Face It Watch or anything.
Right,
they're just focusing on what they do, which is run tournaments. And they can generate that. And they have a guy in their sales team who apparently knows how to sell better than everybody else in the entire industry.
He's a fucking homie, isn't he?
He knows how to sell. Nobody else knows how to sell, apparently.
No.
So, like, PGL make money. These other TOs we know don't make money, and it's because they're like selling off to the part of the Danish government or fucking Saudi Arabia or this, and then someone comes in to tighten the belt. It's like, wait, we were talking about orgs. Now I'm talking about TOs.
I know. You found a new bad guy. Keep going. I like where this is headed.
Guys.
Yeah, they're all bad guys.
They're all bad guys.
But the casters are good. The analysts are good. Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, let's go us.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I can't believe, right, that the angle of like Blast and ESL bad because teams not attend PGL. It's like they are doing the thing that they think will incentivize teams coming to their events, right? And they have to publicly state what those things are. They're all out there. Like, I could go find them right now. They're all public things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
exactly.
It's like it's the orgs who are choosing. And what do the orgs have? Okay, they have the fan base, right? Which then brings the viewership. So they are leveraging that power over PGL by not attending their events.
Well, the
That's
fan
what they're
base,
doing.
and they have the good lineups, the good rosters, the best players in the world on their teams, which is what everyone wants to see, right? And that's what they're leveraging. Well, actually, what you said, viewership, just through maybe a different
but
vehicle.
You can't get upset with them for leveraging the strength that they do have. Like,
Yeah, but here's the
you
solution.
can't be upset about that.
Here's the solution. So these parties need to go to their players and they need to say, hello, players. We will give you two choices. Choice number one. You can keep your big salary, but we will take 50% or more of your prize money. And then players will say, I like guaranteed money. I would say 95% of players would want their guaranteed salary over the prize money. And they say to the players, hey, if you want to keep doing this and you want to stay earning this much money, this is what has to happen. Option two. You have to... What was option two? I had it in my brain a second ago.
Option two is probably take less of a guaranteed salary and keep the higher share of the prize money.
That is option two. Yes. Halve your salary and take all the prize money. And players won't do that because it's not guaranteed money. So that's how this is fixed. That's the only way this is fixed.
Yeah, but the orgs don't need to do that if they can find money elsewhere, which is what they're doing with the TOs. I think for me, it's fine. It's not, Chad. Like, I mean, you say that, but that's not realistic or reasonable because we've grown too much and have advanced a long way for there to be no organizations.
We're in a course correction.
Because you need to do the salaries need to go down for players? Probably. Like, do some of these orgs maybe need to scale down a little bit with some things? Probably. But the orgs still provide a very valuable service to the players themselves first and foremost by providing them with a guaranteed salary, by having people who, coaches, managers, performance coaches, like so that the players can only focus on playing. Like that's what you want to do as a player. You can only focus on getting better and performing on the server. Also for the ecosystem as a whole, having orgs, having brands, having those orgs also work on maybe creating content, for example, the spirit vlogs from the major, or the comms videos from other guys, or skits from someone, whatever it is, it provides extra value to the viewer and provides extra value to the consumer, provides some hype around these teams, around the brands, around the names, right? I don't think we're at a position where, I don't think we'll ever see orgs just not be a thing in Counter-Strike for as long as Counter-Strike is a thing.
I'll tell you something crazy too. I talked to when we were in Katowice at some point, I talked to let's call him a team executive who was involved in the signing of players and the transferring of. It's very similar to a GM role, let's say that. And he actually told me that he thinks, because we stumbled onto this kind of a conversation as well, and he told me he actually thinks that the majority of Counter-Strike players are paid very accurately for their value. He doesn't necessarily think that there is actually like players or salaries are too high, like they're overinflated. He thinks the problem, he actually says, if you look at Counter-Strike, the viewership's there, the numbers are there, we get everything needed for these salaries to be justified. We suck at selling. He's like everything is there. We're just not able to properly sell this yet to like bring in the money. But he thinks that salaries are at a pretty damn good place across the majority of the professional scene.
Good for players, I'll say that. But also this whole conversation, especially like Luber agreement was different and the blasting, because you were getting incentives even if even if you performed poorly. Here you have the club prize money for yourself, and it's higher the higher you place, but it's only based off your placing. Like if Navi is 14th in the next ESL tournament, they're not going to get a shit ton of money. They're not going to get any extra money, right? So that's fair. I just don't like now this sort of narrative or something that people are saying, oh, Blast and ESL are sort of the bad guys, they're squeezing PGL out. Like PGL could easily lower their prize money for a tournament by $500,000, make it 750K instead of 1.25 mil, and do the same sort of an incentive structure. They just don't believe in that and they don't want to do it, which is fair. It's just a different sort of approach that they have, but no one is doing anything shady or illegal or skipping the rules. It's just that Blast and ESL are sort of siding more with the orgs and trying to cozy up with the orgs, and that way sort of guarantee having the biggest of names at their tournaments. And PGL is sort of banking on, well, surely they'll have to play our tournaments because we have the most prize money. It's going to impact the ranking the most.
PGL is Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams. And Silviu's out there just saying, if I build it, they will come. If I provide the prize money, the teams are going to show up in the fucking cornfield and walk out onto my stage and play the goddamn game of Counter-Strike. And that's what he's praying for. And James Earl Jones is going to make goddamn sure that happens.
Look, and I think it will happen in the long term, because based off of a few things. One that you pointed out earlier, in terms of the results, when the results are there and a team drops off, they have to go to the event. Or what we're going to see happen when we do go to war, because they're scheduled over each other in 2027, right? Like I think PGL and Blast are scheduled over the top of each other in 2027 with the events announced.
Already, yeah.
Well, here's the problem if you're Blast. Your money that you have, maybe it incentivizes the org to come to your event, but it really, 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 really is hampered in the VRS. So at that point, if you're literally overlapping over each other and you have to make a choice, you're probably going to go for the event which is going to get you the qualification for the major, because the orgs are going to get more out of the sticker money than they are out of the fucking appearance fee to come to the event, right? In theory. Yeah. So when you go to war in 2027, PGL will come out on top. PGL's formats are also better for this. Half of the bounty is online. It counts for fucking diddly squat. There's also, you need to look at how many LAN matches are being played at, what the prize money split is. This has all of their events have the third place playoff, which then makes a bigger distinction between third and fourth. We're talking $62,500 difference between those two positions, which plays in a lot depending on your placing in the VRS at any given time. So when we get to the point of going to war, Silviu's method will come out on top. It's just at the moment, they're not at war. They've given each other like enough space in the calendar for everybody to run, but that'll change come 2027 because they've already announced these dates, right?
Chad, do you know the frequent flyer thing from Blast? Is
Yeah.
that counted in the VRS or no?
No.
So it's not like club. So that's where ESL sort of found a bit of a. I mean, it wasn't a loophole. Now it's in the ruling, but then that's a bit of a problem for Blast, at least in theory.
So I just having a look at. There's two things right now. So I was just going through the Valve rules. So in the Valve rules for running tournaments 2025 and onwards, in Section 5, competition and integrity, 5.2, non-discriminatory treatment of teams. There's a point in there that says, if tournament operator is going to share revenue or otherwise provide financial support, then the support must be equivalent for all rosters or otherwise determined by an objective KPI that is applied equally to all rosters, including rosters that have been directly invited, qualified, or entered through a wildcard invite determined before rosters are selected. Such support must be accessible by all participating rosters, determined by rosters' performance in the tournament. Another objective merit-based KPI relating to the tournament, e.g. viewership, numbers of matches, blah, blah, blah. So that's where we have these different framings of things, right?
No, yeah, cool.
Yeah. So, if you get invited to the Blast Bounty, right, based off of your point in the VRS at the point of invitation, Blast Bounty, 1st to 8th, 40,000 guaranteed if you accept the invite and play. 9th to 16th, 26,250. 17th to 32nd, 7,500. That's just for going. That's before we get into the prize money conversation. But that's why the prize money at Blast events is less, because they're guaranteeing money for accepting invites.
Don't you? Okay, I got you. And then the frequent flyer program is the one where, depending on where you place, you get that money into a pot, and then
yes.
And then if you turn an event down, it all goes away.
I don't know if it's where you place. I think it's just to do with attendance. Frequent Flyers program, 2 million yearly. Yeah. So 2 million is the base. Yeah. That 2 million, I think, can change, right? So within this, I'm reading it from the Blast website now. The Frequent Flyers program is designed to reward teams for their consistency and participation in multiple Blast events. The program works as follows. Teams earn tokens for participating in events. 4 tournaments, 1 token. 5 tournaments, 2 tokens. 6 tournaments, 4 tokens. And then additional tokens are awarded for performance. Reaching the second week of Bounty or Open is 1 token. Winning Bounty, Open, or Rivals is 2 tokens. At the end of the year, the Frequent Flyer pot, a minimum of 2 million, is divided based on the number of tokens accumulated. If a team declines an invite, they forfeit all tokens for that year.
That's so rough.
I think they changed that. I think that's been amended. You can forfeit one event. I think. Yep. So that's how Blast incentives work. But then, if you go and you look, let's go look at the Lisbon prize money. Lisbon prize money is 400K overall. So it's 150K first, 60,000 second, and then 40 for third, fourth, and then down to the bottom there, right? So, that's how Blast are doing their incentives. And then, you mentioned the club share. It's just semantics, man.
I know. We've already been over this a million times. It's just the words you use and when it gets paid out. But ESL's, I think Yanko's point was ESL's counts towards your VRS because it's contributed with prize money. The frequent flyer doesn't.
Well, the average viewer, Tom, Dick, or fucking Harry doesn't give a fuck if it's club money or if it's prize money. It's the same shit. It's all prize money.
And that's why I also said in my tweet about Maus. Maus in Cluj, the highest ranked team they beat was Falcons in the grand final. They were ranked 8th before the event, and they also lost to them in the groups. Outside of that, it's teams from 11 to 20 something. But the point is we can't do shit. TOs can't do much. PGL can't do much from their side of things to get orgs to come to their events. But the most pressure that can be from within, from the players themselves. Because if you are, guys on Team Liquid and you're well, now we're in this situation, we didn't go to Cluj, especially with the playing field. We could have had an easier time. We're a new team, or we made a roster change. We're trying to, get up in the rankings. G2 as well. The players could have made that same case, right? And you're missing out also, especially with PGL. You look at the prize money, and considering that still, in most cases, the players get the vast majority of the prize money, 85% or higher, that's them looking at it and thinking, well, we could have gotten an extra, 40, 50K per player if we went and won this tournament. So also to not have any real say into which tournaments you'll attend, also just from a logistics standpoint, you're missing out on a tournament in Europe if you're G2, right? Then you'll go to actually, I think they're skipping Melbourne, but let's say a team that will go to Melbourne, they'll go to, where is it, Mexico, the rivals?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Monterrey,
You know,
right?
like some of those locations, it's like you're going to go halfway across the world for a week or 8-9 days to play some event where realistically, how much is there in it for you compared to some other events like a Cluj or maybe Bucharest from PGL, you know? Like, so that's where I think, especially this club prize money thing from ESL, if let's say the orgs are just like, well, that's not prize money, that we don't have to share that with the players. I think that's where
It's
the
definitely
players,
prize money.
yeah, because it's counted in the VRS, right? I think that's all the only definition that you would need to use if you're a player. But again, semantics and contracts, and you know, that's where you can run into some issues. No CSPPA, less power. I mean, power is a bad word, but less opportunity maybe for the players to.
CSPPA was fuck all even when they were around.
Yeah, sure. But still, just the fact that it existed, I mean, the players got some decent stuff from it, you know, like some basic requirements for tournaments and so on, the hotels, the blah, 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 all these sort of things, just because there was an official body and that, you know, contacted with all the TOs and everything. Yeah, it turned to shit pretty quick and wasn't what it was supposed to be in the long run, but the fact it wasn't useless to them.
Okay. All right, boys. Can we talk about Counter-Strike now?
This is Counter-Strike.
I know. Can we talk about the game of Counter-Strike? Excuse me.
All right.
For fuck's sake.
Can we talk about the game of
This is
Counter-Strike?
literally the most important thing in the entire scene at the moment.
And we just did a really long bit on it. We just did about 40 some minutes on that. Can we do the game of Counter-Strike?
Here's what I want to do before we do the game of Counter-Strike. This is what I want to do. I want to say this. I want to say that PGL coming back in and being disruptive by making sure that we actually get a good fucking tournament format with a proper fucking playoff bracket, with an actual with a venue that wasn't 10,000 people. It was about 4 to 5 or whatever it was. It was nice. It was intimate. It was a good crowd. It had a nice setup. It had everything. It wasn't a concert. It was players facing each other. It was a competition. That's exactly what we needed in 2025. That's the fucking wake up. That's the shake up. That's what needed to happen. It needed to show all these other motherfuckers who are trying to do all this fancy shit. It's like, guys, they are showing you the blueprint for what it needs to be.
Guys, if you build it, they will come.
Have a proper format. 8-team playoff. Fuck this 6-team skipping semi-final bullshit. I've been saying it for years, and I'm saying it again. It's fucking pathetic. And I don't give a fuck. Oh, yeah, but we don't want to do 4 teams in an arena on a Friday. Just do it. If people come, they come. If some dickhead on HLTV or the Reddit says, oh, man, there was no one in the fucking crowd. Who cares? If also, people want to go and watch at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, they have that option to do so. Yeah, but what about for the team who plays the first game? There won't be any crowd there. Who cares? That just is what it is. Like, what are we doing? Are we still in 2009 where we're trying to get Channel 9 to pick it up on the news and say, look at these gamers, they've left their bedrooms, and not only that, 9,000 people came to cheer them on. It's like, fuck off, man. Just put on the event in the way the event should be put on. Let's do what's best for the competition. Fuck all this other shit. I'm fed up of it, Jason. I've had enough.
I can tell. I like it. I'm with you. I think the PGL coming in, I think this Cluj went so well that I think that's a big signal to the other TOs that they better step their shit up and figure out how to make all this work. Because if they're still struggling with their kind of shit, PGL just showed them if you can strip it down and go back to the basics, you're going to knock it out of the park. So, yeah, we'll see what happens from it. But I'm with you. I agree with everything you said. Except for maybe the format. Swiss best of 3, still not my favorite, but it's a great format for figuring out who's the best team. I'll say that.
Okay.
How did you feel about the third place game, Chad?
Because I fucking loved it.
I thought it was fun. Loved it. It was great.
It helped the game delivered, but also there was stakes. Like, there was definite stakes for Australis.
Well, that's also why the game delivers, because teams actually try when there's the stakes, like, which is a crazy concept, I know. But when you have that actual issue of the third, fourth place decider, teams will put some focus into it rather than just show up and get it out of the way for an extra $2,000, whatever it used to be.
Better than any show match other than the cashes. I'm biased with that one, but I will stick by that. But yeah, I thought that it was good. I thought also this being only the third event of the season also means, and with new rosters and teams who are trying to do well, there's like lots of angles. It's not just about the VRS. It's also about setting the tone of the roster, showing, like, going through more official reps, getting more stage time. There's a lot of things that I think went into the game that made it interesting. And we were lucky that the first map was an absolute banger. So I thought it was good. What did you think, Yanko?
I think it was good. I think it will forever be difficult for teams to really find, motivation. I don't know. I think JW years ago had a tweet about this as well. Like, sure, there's prize money on the, like, if you get, I think it's a lot about the matchup, right? Like, if you get two teams where there's a lot on the line for them for that game, then absolutely, like, it can be a banger. But I think if you ended up having, Vitality Navi play that game, and then you have whatever Spirit G2 in the final, and they just lost the semi the previous day, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be. I guess it's just like when you have two good teams, it's always going to be fun, right? Like, even if they are a little bit more sloppy, lacking a little bit of discipline, that's still entertaining Counter-Strike. So I guess for the viewer, in the end, it's always going to be great. And I agree that it's way better than any sort of a show match or anything, although they were a little bit lucky that the final didn't go to a fifth map, because it would have been past midnight. So maybe with that you need to start the third place game a little bit earlier, just to make sure that the final doesn't drag on for too long. And of course they were unlucky with the fact that the first map was two maps, but sometimes it can happen.
I think there's going to be probably third, fourth place matches that are going to be great, and some of them would just be fine, and some of them are going to be lackluster. But I think there's going to be at some point a third, fourth place decider that like pops up like right before the cutoff into the cutoff point for deciding the majors, and there's going to be a lot running on the line of the points in that matchup. And I think that's going to turn that third, fourth place match into like almost like an unofficial grand. Like there's going to be
like
so much
more
riding
on the line.
on it. Yeah,
there's more on the line than the grand final.
Right, which is going to be that might be actually the weirdest situation of all. But like there is at some point going to be a third, fourth place decider that has a team's trip to the major on the line, and that's going to be fucking intense.
And I think also the argument you said, Chad, about the first team in the arena, if it's 4 best of 3s, you can just ask that team, would you rather play this game in the studio? Because that's what that upper bracket last game is. I'm pretty sure everyone would answer that they would rather play it in the arena. So yeah, I think we've seen that with MR12. Like, sure, there's still potential with 4 best of 3s a day for things to go real bad and to go south, and for it to be a really long day. But more often than not, it's fine. Like, majority of cases, it's fine in terms of the schedule. That was the reason why we stepped away from 4 best of 3s a day in the arena, because with MR15 and everything, it could, we had that crazy one in Katowice one year where we finished at 3-4 a.m. Like, that was just ridiculous. But with MR and for the majors, you had it because, well, there was an extra day in the arena, because the budget works a little bit different when it's the major. So yeah, I think for these TOs, they can definitely reevaluate. It's also more content for them. In a way, right? Like, more arena games. I think it's just provides for a better product.
I think I think that when the prize money of PGL was the difference between third and fourth was about 60K. Let me get the exact figure up here, because we're talking like a day at the office. If you win 150K, let's just divide it by 6, right? If you're winning 150,000 divided by 6, that's roughly 25,000 ahead, right? For winning that match. And I know they make I know the top teams make a lot of money in a month, but $25,000 is fucking nothing to sniff at, right? Yeah. And it might be a little bit less, maybe it's 20K per player, but still, that right there would be incentive enough for me to want to win. You can do a lot with 20K, mate. That's your business class flights, the year, Anchor.
No, also, the difference between Astralis and Falcons is less than 40K.
Yeah.
Between second and third, the difference between third and fourth is a lot more. It's close to 70K. So yeah, I think it's nothing to be laughed at. Like, even if the players have high salaries, this is still like extra money that's coming in, and all that stuff, and potentially some incentives, and if you go up in the rankings and all that stuff. But yeah, I think for the tournament itself now, Jason, if we could finally get to the Counter-Strike and you can stop talking about all this random bullshit in your fucking baseball movie that no one has seen outside of the United States, because no one watches the game outside of the United States, the Dominican Republic, and Japan.
I've seen it.
Yanko, I'm just saying,
Thanks,
this movie could solve a lot of geopolitical tensions in your region. If everyone got on board with the message of this movie, we could solve it.
I seriously doubt that. That's all I'm going to say. I seriously doubt that statement.
Have you tried it yet? That's the checkmate.
Do you like cheeses? What do you want to talk about with the Counter-Strike, Jason?
Let's start with.
Here we go.
Where do we want to begin?
Here we go.
Where do we want to begin?
Because I got plenty
Nick
of format
has no
talk.
idea.
No, I want to start with Astralis, because leading into the playoffs was the day after they suffered that atrocious loss online to
12-4.
Heroic,
Oh.
and then showed up the next day and handled Mongols, and then handled then had a good battle against Maus, but won the third place decider against FaZe. So Astralis, I don't really know what to think of them at the moment, because I still think they look disorganized. Played a great game against FaZe in the third place decider, but still I'm not convinced.
Have you seen the conspiracy theory?
What's the conspiracy
There's
theory?
a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, that they didn't want to go to Dallas, really, so they lost the game when they played like shit.
That's a pretty good conspiracy theory. See, they could have qualified and just turned down the invite, right? Like that would have been fine too. So that's an interesting little theory. Okay, so I think what is first important for me to want to do, Jason, is to set the context of the tournament in greater comparison to everything else, right?
Okay.
So, well, because the top teams in the world, right, the main three, Na'Vi, Spirit, Vitality, are all missing, that it plays in massively here. So with that in mind, this was not a battle between the top teams of the world. This was a battle between everybody else to kind of show where they're at in their progressions and where they're headed. Is it the right direction that we're seeing from them early?
Everybody
For Maus, it was,
except Liquid.
Except Liquid and Furia.
And Furia.
We can't forget Furia. They are the Brazilian Liquid. So when we contextualize that, we need to make sure that we're not coming out here and being like, wow, like these Maus are the best team in the world right now.
Yes.
Right. So that's important. So what I would be looking for when I was discussing Astralis would be signs of improvement, and I would also look at what type of takeaways there would be for this team going forward. So there were signs of improvement from Astralis, right? They got to play quite a lot of maps throughout the course of it. They did have ups and downs, right? They had that really bad loss to Maus. They probably should have 2-0'd that series. If they had won that first map of Inferno, it would have been very likely for them to have been able to carry that momentum through and finish off the series and been done. But I will say, mentally, I like the fact that they didn't just get blown out of that series. They stayed in and they caused a fight still. Because it's really common for teams just to have collapses if you end up losing from a 12-4 deficit. Then they also lost to it from a 12-8 deficit on Mirage that went into that crazy overtime against FaZe, right? So I think mentally for Astralis, there were some positive signs there. I think what we were seeing from them overall as a team is still really choppy. It's hit and miss. Like sometimes it looks pretty good, sometimes it doesn't. But obviously they're still trying to get the comfort for how they're going to play in the current meta of CS. They only had to play 5 different maps CS there. I don't think they had to play Train throughout that. And they banned Anubis. But we got to see a lot of maps. Inferno is clearly one of their home turfs, and they also like Ancient. And then everything else is kind of here or there, right? Like their Mirage is a weakness. They're going to have to play a lot of it because people are going to pick it against them. I still have concerns like with the consistent level of output from somebody that's meant to be the main star of Stown. But if Yabi can take that over, because he looked great. Yabi looked very sharp. He looked very confident. So it's positive signs for Astralis. That's my takeaway. But that's it. Like this is a good result for them. It's an important VRS result for them. It's a confidence building result for them. It's a lot of reps under pressure of official environments on LAN and then a stage. So all in all, this is an event that's a step in the right direction for them. But if I was having to like put them anywhere in World CS, I wouldn't do that based off of these results.
Is it positive steps and signs that you could actually feel like you can consistently place them event to event, or is this just like this one event was good? Now let's see if you can replicate this.
I think the general level of Counter-Strike at this event was pretty poor from a macro standpoint, to be completely honest. I don't think it was high tier. team-based CS. There were some high-tier individual moments and some good rounds and some good executes. But I think like overall, from top to bottom, it was lacking the class that a Vitality or a Na'Vi would
Spirit
bring.
of Vitality or Na'Vi
Right?
bring.
Spirit obviously bring the biggest dick, and they just kind of you get away on that quite a lot. I think Vitality and Na'Vi are more fleshed out from a tactical perspective.
Yeah.
But for Astralis, like, it doesn't change them in my mind. They're still a team who is probably somewhere from top 20 to top 10. They're not,
Okay.
I wouldn't have them breaking into the top 10 at the moment, not consistently.
I think the thing with Astralis is, on paper, they have too many good pieces to be bad forever, right? Like it has to click at some point. Like, sure, you always have Cadian having to play some silly roles with a rifle, but outside of that, you have Device, you have, Yabi and Stair. I don't even want to mention Stone that much anymore because he had another stinker, for the most of the playoffs, really, like not delivering in a way that you would expect from him. And for people, they're finally seeing, sort of what Stair is capable of, and he's showing it a little bit more on the big stage as well. But I've been, calling for this guy to go to Astralis from 2022 in October or something.
That from Sprout, right?
Yeah, before the Rio.
Yeah.
I was saying they should get him and Zyphon, but Zyphon, for some reason, still on tier 3 teams in Denmark. But yeah, I think he's extremely talented, good mechanics, good game sense. I think from little I could see on Sprout, he was a good teammate as well, has a good attitude while he plays. So it might just be the trio of Yabi, Stair, and Device that are sort of leading the pack from them. But yeah, it's all about whether they will be able to do it on a consistent basis. You still see some of those, obviously, with KDM being the IGL, some of the heroic stuff in there with some gambles and stacks and reads and all of that. And it can be very frustrating to play against if you can't get some of those reads on your own, and if you keep running into those stacks and you get outmaneuvered in that way. But also hard to execute that style on a consistent basis and to always kind of be right and be at the right place at the right time. So I think probably the best and the most influential result for the Astralis organization in the last year or 14, 15 months, really, that they've had, with the implications that it's going to have on this season.
I don't love the double AWPs that I see coming out for them all the time, but I understand it. Like, for Cadian, he's playing some of these positions, which I also think makes it hard for him to be able to lead the way that he used to lead, because he was much more of a central piece as the AWPing in-game leader, right? So you would be able to see a lot more of the big picture from where he would be playing rounds, and that's on both sides of the map. Now he has to either impart that trust on his other players or call from the dark, or maybe not the dark, but like he's calling from the back lines for other people to be making the reactions. And he might not have all the info or as much info as required. So I think that is going to hurt them a little bit, but that's just the way it's going to have to be.
Oh, it's also kind of just funny in a way, because that was the conversation around the old heroic team that he used to have, which is I don't get a lot of information passed on to me by the team around, which is why I'm so controlling. Not enough of them take initiative. So I imagine he's feeling a little bit like deja vu right now to a certain extent.
Because that's where it really needs to be. Because I've heard like really positive things about Stair's communication, but he also plays some. It depends on the map, right? But he also plays some extremity positions. So that's where, that's why I think the Inferno is so good, because Yabi's lurking is really good. Like, he always gets a good timing. He seems to understand when he should and shouldn't apply pressure, which keeps options open for them on a map like Inferno. So you can see where they have a good understanding. Maybe it's not a system, but the players know what's necessary from them in scenarios, which is helping them a lot, right? So that will come with time. I think they'd be a good Anubis team, bro, because Heroic always were a good Seesaw team, right? Without Vertigo in the pool, which was a heavy Seesaw map, you could have Anubis as a Seesaw map. Like, imagine if you had like Yabi or Stown working your con position T side, one of them working mid, you can have Stair taking A main control. Like, you have some good pieces to be able to Seesaw, but it's not in their map pool right now. But that is what it is. I don't want us to talk about Astralis for too long.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love how Richard dubbed it the Hater Bowl when we had like some of these teams playing. It's
Yeah.
because like at the moment the community just loves to hate at the moment, which is, you know, they're the viewer. They get to do what they like.
We've always had teams that cycle through like the hatred scope, right? Like you just have to spend some time there, no matter who you are.
No matter who you are.
Astralis has spent significantly more time there than most other organizations.
Yeah, well, Falcons, no matter what they do, will always be spending time there.
Yeah.
I think this is it, though, right? And we're talking about this. I know Duncan's always very vocal about this on the Twitter sphere, about Falcons and like saying like about them. They're going to get a good team, right? And I think Yanko, you and I probably had a similar standpoint. Jason, maybe a little bit more on the other side, just based off of your opinion on Nico's ability to win a major in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're seeing already like this roster is much better than the one they had last year, and I'm really surprised with the Dexter Nico relationship. Yanko, have you spoken to Nico about Dexter much? Because I didn't think they'd get along, but it seems like they do.
Not too much. I haven't seen him all that much, but I remember asking him sort of also about the clapping. You see Nico just fist bumps and then Dexter high fives him, but apparently he's like a bit of a quiet guy.
Really?
Dexter. Yeah. That's I was surprised
Outside
to hear
the
that
game,
as well. Yeah, I thought he was like super outgoing, like that's sort of the vibe he gives out, but not really. So getting him out of his shell a little bit has been what they've been trying to do. But yeah, still obviously early days for them. They've just been together for 2 months, right? And they spent 85% of that on the road together. They had a boot camp that was something around 16 days total. Then you had Katowice, right, and straight into Romania pretty much after that because they had to play the qualifier for Dallas. And then you had Bucharest and Cluj. So, yeah. But I think for them, obviously, a huge result in terms of making the grand final for one. In also looking at the teams that they've had to play along the way. I mean, they beat FaZe 2-0 on the stage. They finally beat Eternal Fire after Falcons as an org lost to them the last 130 times that they played. And they beat Mouse to qualify for the playoffs. They beat Astralis. You know, okay, they lost to Pain and beat FlyQuest in their opening game. So I think they played a lot of really good teams. They had to play a lot of maps. Good sign for them that Nico was in form, ended up winning the MVP despite losing in the final. Dexter had a lot of good moments, and I think after sort of the first series, a little bit the second series, like the fact that Tessis did wake up a little bit in the grand final and showed some of his form on stage from the groups on the stage as well in the playoffs. I think that's like what you're hoping comes out of this tournament for Falcons the most, that he's sort of broken that glass ceiling of his and that now he can deliver those sort of performances on the stage consistently, because that would mean a ton for this Falcons lineup.
I think my thoughts reflecting on Falcons this weekend is like I have this one idea with Nico. Like I feel like there's no other player I can think of that I feel like could turn the sense and the feeling of this franchise around the way Nico has done in just the first 2 months here. Like actually put this team together and made it feel like a complete team. Has been like a huge presence in Rock in terms of inside the game, in terms of their approach to the game. I'm sure within how vocal he is. But like I could never see Simple stepping into this roster and feeling like it turned the complete fortunes around for the franchise. I could never imagine Device doing it. I could never, I feel like Nico is like the perfect guy to come in and make this team actually feel like it can be competitive moving forward. And then on top of that, my other thought is with Dexter, because I love watching Dexter play. He makes a lot of decisions that make me scratch my head and say, why did he do this? But he had an incredibly impactful tournament. He's incredibly fun to watch. You're just going to live and die sometimes by his decision, like live and die by the Dexter sword. He's going to make some bad decisions sometimes. But this event, he was fantastic.
I think also something with Dexter is the amount of time that he had out of Counter-Strike, and then also before that, probably top Counter-Strike 2. So there is that warming back.
Like a little over a year, right? I think.
Yeah. So he had a ways out, and like it was from CS:GO to CS2. So that is an impact on it as well. But his early stuff, he always looked out of position, and that can happen, like in the sense that sometimes you're trying to do too much, right? Like certain players, if their teammate is in a compromised position, won't sell them down the river. They'll try and like make sure they can maintain their space or whatever. And in scenarios, you should sell them, right? And like maybe they won't die, maybe you get the kills. But yeah, I think that when there's chaotic moments is when Dexter gets to be his best. And I also think in this team, if Kixon and Zonic are able to call around the fact that they have these two players who can contribute a lot in moments or even set themselves up, right? Obviously, they need the teammates for the nades and stuff. But if you can send Nico and Dexter in to kind of get you that space, I think those are two players who are going to deliver on that. If Tessus can play like he does on the group stage games, that's really good because Tessus has some of the best fucking spray I've seen. Like, it's so good. I love watching Tessus's aim.
The Mirage one from Cat, that was nasty.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's got some good moments. Alex calling him Rene Borg after a casting moment I thought was pretty funny. So he now knows it's Madsen, so shout out to Tessus one time. What else is... I just think that the fun thing with that team is they have players who can tussle confidence-wise with the big teams. Like they enjoy being on the stage. They know when Counter-Strike gets a bit grittier, like what they can deliver. And that's what makes them exciting. I don't know, like when we see them get measured up against the top teams again at EPL and Lisbon, if they're going to be able to continue to play to that degree. Because, for example, EPL is just studio. Lisbon, if they make it to the arena portion, yeah, maybe. But I think this is the type of team that will do better when the momentum base, where people are making more mistakes. I don't think they will fall to that same type of pressure. But I don't know. I'm not looking at this result and going, oh, they're a top team now. Like they always were going to be competitive with this roster. It's about how long will that take, but they're not there. They're still not in there. They haven't broken into the hemisphere with the Spirit, with the Navi, with the Vitality. We're still ways off that. But I just think they showed some good signs of promise, I guess.
I think you can also tell, man, like some of these rounds, I think in the final things could have gone better for them, but they were losing some silly rounds. Again, having a lot of issues with the anti-force buy rounds at different times. Then you even look at Ancient losing 5v2 in the first gun round. I mean, on the CT side, just completely changes the way that CT side goes. And it's crazy because of the level of players and the experience of the players that happens. I mean, also some situations on Dust. There was that 2v4 or 2v5 that they almost won with actually Dexter and Tessus, where Dexter is getting the kills with the Galil on the A site, and Tessus gets one kill on mid, and then for some reason he pushes mid to peek window on B while Dexter is already on A and killed all the last two players are alive are the B players, and could have played the post plan there at 2v2 and had a chance to win the round maybe, but whatever. I mean, it's kind of clear the areas in which they could improve still. So I think also Nico talked in interviews about how they were feeling the pressure early on because everyone's wanting them to fail and all of that stuff. So I think this result will probably be a little bit liberating for them in a way too, where okay, you guys have shown you've beaten some good teams, like you've shown that you can play, and now you can maybe just relax a little bit and do some more of that.
I felt bad watching Ancient because I feel like we could go back and watch that VOD, and I think Nico got killed like 6 or 7 times through smokes or blind in middle. And he tweeted out that like Ancient, he fucked up and had a bad game on Ancient. And I was like, yeah, you didn't really have any impact, but you did get killed through the smoke like literally 4 or 5 times on your T side. Like, what are you supposed to do?
I think they should swap Tessus and Nico on Ancient.
Okay, have Tessus be the mid player?
And I think Nico should go back to being the B extremity guy, like on CT side, as opposed to the mid guy. Because Nico is like the GOAT rifler, right? But the way that mid goes down, it's so... I don't want to say it's...
heavy.
Yeah, but it's very utility heavy, and it comes down to like timings a lot of the time. Like, did I account for their 4th fucking flash when I was pushing mid as a CT, right? Like, and I don't think Nico wants to take those type of fights. Whereas, like, if he just sat behind the red smoke and cleared the smoke and one guy was running out, he would win that fight most of the time. Whereas him having to play the coin toss fucking meta of, did my AWPA hit the elbow smoke? Did my molly land? Are they edging? How many flashes are they going to use? Should I turn? Are they harassing mid if I'm going for the run boost? Are they mollying heaven? It's like too many variables. Just let the guy go over to B extremity. He can, if they come to fight him, they can have an AWP. That's fine. Nico will sit him on their ass. He can go aggressive down the B ramp, fight lane. I think that would, and that's the position he played before in G2. Let Tessus take middle with Magus. They can talk in Danish if they really want, right? And then it's all good. Like, take Nico out of that chaotic position. He doesn't need to be there. Just because players like Nertz and stuff and Exertion and JDC, they do it, like, then they're still not Nico.
You know Nico, though. He loves a fight.
Yeah, but you get it on B too. Give him B. Get him on B, Yanko. Have a word with him, all right? Anyway.
As you wish, Chad.
Thank you. Mouse?
Cool. Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah.
Cool?
I mean, look, you got to give him
next team.
Yeah, you got to give him credit. Like, I don't know how this whole roster change thing has actually worked out to get him a trophy here right out of the gate. I'm not going to declare it like some major fucking incredible, we found the new IGL of the future, but at least for the moment, Spinks had a great event coming in. The extra firepower surely boosted them. I think it's probably a very loose style of calling where you're still operating on a bunch of the shit that Shuhei brought in and like to call, and you're just being a little bit more freewheeling with it because you don't have that true experience IGL at the helm. So every player feels a lot of freedom and a lot of fun and a lot of creativity at the moment. And it combined to have a really, really cool run for them. But I still am not convinced this is going to last very long. It is one of those situations that I look at and I say, let's give it 2 months. Let's give it 2 months and see where this whole IGL, let's see when Brolin gets tested, what is the response? When they fall flat, when they feel like they're running out of ideas, when everyone knows what they're doing, what's the next step of Mal's going to look like with the new IGL switching into this position?
This is why I wanted to make sure that we set like expectations, and that's why I'm not being too high on any of the results for any of these teams. Like, there was entertaining Counter-Strike, there was some good matches. There's obviously positive signs to win your first event with the full roster and Brolin in game leading. Like, that is a very good thing. But, like, is that going to confirm that this is a good move and maybe it doesn't end up being one? Like, it's still too early to tell, but it is a great sign. I think the most exciting and interesting thing, maybe not the most exciting, let me reframe. I think the most interesting thing about Maus in Cluj was Jimmy outing himself as a gooner.
Yeah, good for him.
That was probably the most interesting thing for Maus for me at the event. And they won the whole thing. He's
made a really big step for all the gooners out there in the world who've been feeling like they're alone and isolated, probably by their own selection with their monitors.
Well, it's when you're at events all the time, Jason, you can either do the Boros method or you can do what most of them do, and that's just chill. So, you know, there's plenty of choices out there.
Yeah, he's chosen the path more traveled.
Yeah, and that's probably the safer way to do things, I'd say.
I would say so, for a lot of reasons, really.
Yeah, but he's shown his taste in adult films. So
I didn't see the tweet. What was it?
Oh.
I just heard about this. Is it still up there? Has he deleted it, or is he a real man?
Well, it was an accidental retweet. Well, I'm assuming it was accidental. Okay. It was a retweet
of an account he was ostensibly following.
Well, I don't know if he's following the account. You don't have to be following the account to consume its stuff, Jason.
That's fair.
Would you like me to link you the account?
Yeah, actually, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll put the account in here for you. Just there you go.
Just for research purposes.
Yeah, just
there you go. It's right there. That's the account.
It's funny too because he's not an avid tweeter either. This is like a rare Jimmy public.
He's an avid Twitter user. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a huge amount to say about Maus, which is strange because they won. And it's not that I'm a hater. I quite like Maus. I think they've got some fun people over there, but I don't know.
I
like Torji a lot. I think Torji's an awesome opper.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while, though, haven't we?
I think for them, it's obviously great for the confidence of Brolan and the whole team that, you know, I think the players at the back of their head, also removing your IGL, having a new guy have to step into it, like it's not the easiest of transitions. So the fact that they were able to have a good result early on, right, despite of the teams that they didn't beat, like, doesn't matter. Like, still to go and win 3 games in the arena and win the tournament, like, that's going to feel good. Obviously, I think important that Exertion had a good final because in some of those What, Jason?
Nothing. I just looked at the Twitter account that showed me. Go on about exertion.
All right, but yeah, I think also him having a good final important because he's a guy who can have a lot of impact and has some key positions on maps and has gone missing before in some key games. So a lot of positives in that sense. Like Chad said, still to be truly tested in the sense of having to play some of these teams that are at the very, very top, and how are things going to look that way. But I don't know. I just have, again, a hard time seeing that transpire when they get to that sort of an environment. I even saw Duncan tweet something along the lines, and I kind of agree with it. It almost means now, it's all about firepower is the only thing that matters. Like if they pull it off, right? Like it's just who has the guys who shoot the hardest, and there's very little left in terms of nuance and tactics and things like that. If you can just get a rifler and get rid of your IGL and still play on a super high level. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It came definitely earlier than I expected for MOUZ in terms of the success, and to see if they can maintain it.
I think what I will...
Yeah,
yes?
go on.
I was just going to say, I think what I will say, because I said I didn't have a lot to say, but when I just look at the complexion of the team, because what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the positives and best case scenarios. So maybe we'll stay on that. We can stay on that. I think if you look at the idea that you can have Exertion and Brolin as the two taking space as the riflers, and then you could have Jimmy and Spinks coming in clutch, which they did, right? There was multiple occasions where, especially Spinks had some really important clutches for them. That is a really nice recipe, right? As long as they stay reliable and they stay on top of the game to continue to bring like new ideas and everything. Because Torji, what you pointed out, Jason, I think that he plays good high-level Counter-Strike in pressure situations. Like he's always going for his peaks, right? Like he can find impact. It's pretty rare that we see him disappear. So it's if those other parts of the puzzle can function as they should, which on a first going they can, that's going to be great. And I think that MOUZ, even with Shui, played their best Counter-Strike when it was confidence-based CS, when they were just running at people and taking jewels. Did it come back to bite them in the ass in certain scenarios? Yes. But when they were unleashing their individuals through structure, right? We still have a round opener. We still know what everyone's throwing. We still have our timings. But when they were playing confident CS, I think that's when they were playing some of their better CS. So you need to build on this for the major, essentially, and thinking if you have another... We're end of February now, so you have March, April, May. You have 3 more months to build out the base of the team. So then the question you have to ask yourself is, will there be enough depth from that base going into the major for them to be a title contender? That's what we have to find out. I don't know at what point we can really check that. Maybe it would have to be after something like Melbourne.
Well, I feel like that's going to be like a really critical time period too, is what I just mentioned. Because in my head, it's like, how long do you think like the Shuhei stuff is going to stick around in that team as an IGL? Like if you have to keep refreshing things, right? Like if I say like
every time they fail, it'll come up.
No. I don't mean as a conversation. I mean within the team, with what Shuhei has already brought to this team over the past year and a half, whatever it's been. Yeah, the structure and the ideas. Like how long until that fades away? Because in my head, it's like 2 to 3 months. And I think that's going to be about the point where we're starting to lead into the major and starting to assess where teams are and like final fixes going into Austin. And then it's going to be like, okay, if it looks like that has completely collapsed, like you're in a weird situation where your brand new in-game leader for the first time is going into a major and having to recreate all the ideas that you need to be able to run and execute. I don't know. I think it's just going to be a fun story to track. It could be really sketchy heading into the major, or it could be pretty clean.
I understand what you're saying. I think that's fair. I guess when I look at like what is Brolin going to be able to bring from the in-game leader perspective is more when they're in like a tough tactical battle against an Apex or a Carrigan and the adjustments are needing to be made, because coming up with the moves that they have is something that I guess they're going to do, like most teams do, a bit more by committee, right? Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I'm this player. We could try this or we could do this, and then you build that out into your game plan and your defaults, because we have a default, but in the default we have different variations of how we're going to take the space and who's going to do what for who, et cetera, et cetera. It's when it gets down to the nuance of the actual like call, oh shit, they've done this. Like, is Cyclone with 3 tactical timeouts in a map going to be able to make those adjustments for them?
Yeah.
Or is Brolin going to be able to bring that himself? And yeah, I see what you're saying though in terms of Shuey bringing the bigger picture and everything. So yeah, but it's hard to measure that, isn't it? It's really
yeah, it
hard
really
to
is.
measure that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why, like, as an IGL, if I don't know how long every time you refresh, and I think the game is sped up now. I know teams start feeling like they've been figured out, every couple of months. So I just know he's gonna have to put in some work there. But hey, two nice things. Well, one nice thing, Yanko, you asked this question in the last episode. You said, if Brolin has always wanted to be an IGL, why don't we have any interviews of him from back in the day? We found one.
Yes.
We got one.
So
and did you see the Easter egg in the background?
No, I wasn't paying that much attention.
Our boy Sembler's in there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know that he was in.
Actually, I don't actually know if he's in the background, but he was commentating and hosting that Swedish game show that this is from.
I know that he was doing that, and of course, I guess I owe an apology to Brolin and everyone, because he did say in a word when he was talking about his career, well, I could see myself being an entry fragger or an IGL. So I guess, that means he's always wanted to be an IGL. And finally, he got his wish fulfilled in these. Mouse was the organization that granted him his lifelong wish to IGL and play Counter-Strike. So it all worked out amazingly well for everyone.
Honestly, it's so funny looking at this interview of 14-year-old Swedish Brolin. It's hilarious, actually.
Isn't that the one where the guy had that line as well? Like, fuck. Because on that show there was like the interviewer asked a player a question and he's like, "No one, bitch."
Yeah, that is from that show as well. Just the hardcore bitch for no reason.
Yeah, like why did he do that? Why did he say that?
I don't know.
It just makes no sense.
I know, but it's made me laugh for a good amount of times.
I don't understand why that kid did that.
Good for him, though.
I guess
it's bold to step up to the plate like that. It's bold.
And they aired it too, didn't they? So
did Exertion get robbed of the MVP?
Oh my god. So did we discuss this on the show before?
If it were a finals MVP, then you could say so, but for the event, no.
Well, Yankee, you're not allowed to say that. You're the number one Nico Glazer, so you need to reside your opinion.
Sit this one out.
But I can have an opinion. I think that the way that HLTV do their... I do podcasts about it. Jason, you're the only one who could have an opinion here.
Not affiliated with Nico or HLTV. All right, my time to shine. Yeah. No, I'm with.
Come on now.
No, I am. I do lean towards the side of Yanko. I think the entire event put together from Nico is unreal. I think the stats he had and the impact he showed for Falcons was far and away. No doubt, Exertion was incredible during the grand finals. And if it's an isolated award for that series, he wins it. But across the whole event, I think Nico was the stud. I think Nico showed a lot of versatility, and I think it was rightful. I think it's in the right place.
This is what I told ESL to do with the DHL MVP, right? And I think I had this discussion on HLTV Confirmed. I said what they should make the DHL MVP is just for the final.
Yeah.
Right? It's just because HLTV have the event MVP covered. Just do the major grand final MVP. And you can go, well, oh yeah, but it's just one. Yeah, but like you give the award more validity by doing that. And it's like, I can already know what the people in sales are going to say. Yeah, but what about our activations and other segments? I can solve that for you, lads. Like, don't worry about it. I can fix that too.
That's actually the easiest thing to fix.
We can still get the people vote. Like, and then the award, like when a player gets it or whatever, it'll be just based off of their performance in the final, and you won't have to worry about bringing in anything to do with anything else. And the final is actually the most important game. Wow, who would have thought? So there's grounds for it too. But yeah, I think Exertion had a great final. Yanko brought it up before. It's really good for his confidence, and hopefully we can get that from him consistently, because he is the player that tends to go missing for Mouse. So, but I don't think he got robbed of the tournament MVP. I don't think that would be a reasonable surmise.
No, not at all.
Situation.
Not at all.
I think also, dude, the Mongols, another choke from them. I felt like they choked, at least watching the game.
Well, if you're losing to Astralis and Mirage, you're doing something wrong, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, they got slapped around. Even won both pistols. Sure, lost the second round in the first half. But on Inferno, they had a lead and they just couldn't close out. They lost in the end 8 rounds in a row, like 4 in regulation and all 4 in overtime. And you could tell, like, well, they were playing that the stress was starting to come in and all this stuff. And it's happened a couple of times now. It's happened against Miles in Shanghai. It's happened here against Astralis. They beat an Eternal Fire in Katowice who choked, like
The
from the
Vitality
words of
losses,
Major
whatever.
himself, and the Vitality lost. Vitality is just a better team. Like, that's fine. So for the Mongols, like the choking has to stop. Like, it's fine.
But how do you fix that, you reckon? Is it just reps? Like, or you think it's a mentality thing? Like, and how do they, if it is a mentality thing, how do you fix it?
I think it's a mentality. I think it's tough. What, Jason? What now?
No, I'm just laughing because I feel like if anyone actually knows how to solve the choking problem, you could make a really fucking good business. Like, it's just it's a funny question because I feel like we've asked it for so many teams over the years, and there's no great solution to it. And I think even the teams who figured it out really wouldn't have a clean answer for you.
I feel it's got to be mainly comfort, though.
I mean, reps obviously are going to be huge for it. Like, be putting yourself back in those situations as frequently and as often as possible. But there's no real, I guess, there's no like guide frame on that's going to take 3 events worth of reps or 5 events. For the Danish guys who turned into Astralis, it took like 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think just there's a couple of ways to do it, but to not get too deep into it, I think just for the Mongols, the problem was it's just 5 guys and a coach, right? Like, sure, and they have an organization, but when they started playing, it's the rawest of guys playing together, going up the ranks, right? I don't think there was too much emphasis on professions, and there wasn't a big staff from the start. There wasn't a performance coach. There wasn't like a super strict regimen that they had to follow in terms of nutrition or whatnot, right? Like, which is to be expected for the first team to ever do anything coming from Mongolia, right? So I think that's the reason why in these high pressure situations, right, sometimes their emotions get the better of them. And you can tell that with the players individually, sometimes how they approach things as a team. I mean, against Astralis, this happened, like, and they do this all the time. At 12-10, they decide to force buy, right? And it's a bad force. Astralis is not in reset territory, right? And then you have 2 shit buys to end regulation. Like, why are you doing this? They had 1 saved gun on Mzinho, the op, so what? Like, just have him play. He'll play with the Tech 9 last round or a Mac 10. And then he can maybe pick up a gun from someone else. You didn't give yourself the best chance to win the game in regulation. And it's those sort of things like need to stop, and they need a little bit more finesse to their game. Like, they are
tactically?
Yes.
Yeah,
tactically. I think they're good at what they do, and sort of, I don't want to call it like too simplistic because it's not, but there needs to be a little bit more there in terms of their slow game needs to develop. Like, they're very good when, their
in the chaos
go well,
peaks,
chaos, like faking mid default, popping on a side. Like, if that stuff works for them, they can run over everyone. But if that doesn't work and you can't do the poppy stuff and you have to play a slower default, take map control, pull the rotations right from your opponents, I feel like that's where they still struggle.
Yeah. I hope it is just a reps thing, right? Because like they have good players. I really like watching 910 Orp. I think he's really fun. I think like Senzu, he is the one that tends to have the dive, but at the same time, I agree with Yanko in the sentiment of the way that they play the game. It can be volatile, right? If you're not getting away with those moves, then you're not getting away with anything. So yeah, they are going to develop. They've already developed quite quickly, right? So now if they're breaking in every 2nd or 3rd event to playoffs and playing arena games, great. They can get those reps, and then eventually when they do have their breakthrough in the arenas, because it's kind of like Mouse, remember? They would always suck in the arenas. They'd be good in groups, but they'd suck in arenas.
I mean, I think if you contextualize Mongols with where they've come from and what that they've had to deal with and like the recruiting out of that region, and I'd say the last year and a half, 2 years have been so incredible for them that like I can't even talk about them in any negative fashion, even if they're not finding a way to beat some of the best teams and having some disappointing results. Like, I don't know, this just all feels like it's exactly as it's supposed to be for a team that's coming out of Mongolia, recruiting within Mongolia, very small Counter-Strike scene, far, far away. I think they've done incredible. I'd like to see them break through, obviously. But I guess I would agree with Yanko. I think the slow game is something that they struggle with. And everything else seems to be about where it's supposed to be at.
Everyone struggles with the slow game every now and again,
Yeah. You got to keep breathing. That's the key.
Yeah. And it's all about the rhythm.
Yeah, it feels like you should be holding your breath, but keep breathing.
What about FaZe?
Whew.
Because I know it's a big question, but
I think you can see that for them. Like
I don't think it's going to work.
It's a one-player change, but
It's not gonna work.
It's much bigger than for all of these other teams, right? Because multiple guys are moving around, and Rain especially playing some of the roles that he played ages ago, or positions that he played a long time ago, which is going to take some adjusting. But this is it. Like this Pro League window, right, where they're not playing Pro League. That like this is where they need to sort of figure it out, and they won't have much time post that to work on stuff, right? Like Elige is playing well individually. I think sort of Brokey is another big question mark for them. He had a great group stage in Cluj, but a pretty abysmal playoffs, right? And I think this might be sort of the last season / last year for him to really show to the team that he can, take that next step in his game and play on a consistent level, because we all know how difficult it is to have good results when you're struggling to get consistent output from your upper.
I know we're like, you said it's one player and it's more significant and everything like that, but it's just, it feels like it's so big of a change that unless they're all, but it's classic FaZe. I was going to say, unless they're all playing, it's just the same thing. Same thing always with FaZe. Like, the reason I say I don't think it's going to work is I just feel like there's so many things. Like, even Rain doesn't have outside on nuke anymore.
Yeah.
He made another sacrifice. And it's like, and then he's doing an interview and he's asked the question by James and he's like, yeah, I'm liking the challenge. Well, you probably are. You've been playing Counter-Strike forever, Rain. It's probably nice to not have to play the same position.
He's playing some of the positions that he played when I was the coach.
Yeah,
because Nico was on the team, and then Nico had those
6 years ago? 5 years ago?
Yeah, five.
So,
six. Holy shit, it's been that long.
And the game has changed so drastically in those 5 or 6 years as well. He has to relearn pretty much all those positions in terms of the utility sequences, the peaks that are coming, the angles that are being held.
I'd like to see them start banning Nuke or Inferno and playing Train.
Do you still think Frozen should be taking more of the sacrifices than Rain?
Well, no, because didn't we talk about it last time? And the angle that I was saying was if they're going to get all the positions they want, those two, Frozen and Elige, then they're the ones who have to deliver. Yeah. Like, we're not looking to Rain. We're obviously not looking to Carrigan.
But didn't you say you wanted Frozen to take on more of the anchor roles, more of like the Ross positions?
I did, but then he topped the stats. He was at the top of the... To be fair, they played Saw twice, so I don't know how much you give a fuck about them beating a dead team. I don't know. I just have a feeling that it's not going to work in the long run. Like,
that actually scares me a little bit.
But what? Okay, so
this FaZe team could be so exciting.
I'm saying not going to work in the long run.
Yeah.
But I guess I'd have to set a bar of like what that means. So I guess consistently a top 5 team in the world. Okay. Maybe.
So you don't think they're going to drop out of playoffs? You just don't think you're going to see them lift trophies?
Well, I'm actually maybe okay. So at the moment, Spirit, Vitality, Na'Vi, right? Then who's going to fill the spots after that? It's a huge open conversation right now between a lot of names. How quick can Eternal Fire and Mongols develop to the point where they can play well in arenas? That's a conversation for those two because they play good Counter-Strike. They have different distinct styles. They have strong players. They're in their own little bucket. G2, they have strong pieces, but to get things online and the learning curve for players like Malbs, Monacy, and Heavy God now having to pick up the mantle of what Nico's left and being the 2IC, but mainly probably the main voice in terms of helping to the in-game leader of how the rounds are going to flow. That now has to get pieced together. So where do we place G2? I don't know. That's a fucking mystery right now. Mals have just won their first event with Spinks in the roster and Brollet in-game leading. Astralis are making steps, but they're still outside of that conversation. Falcons have just had a really good event run. They've showed the potential kicks and good calling, some good play from Nico, Dexter, and Tessus, and Magisk as well, right? So now they're starting to bring their name in. Liquid have good potential, but haven't shown it. Like last year, they were in the second half, they were able to like just be gatekeeping that top like 10 to 12 kind of position, 8 to 12 maybe, but never were able to break through against any of the big dog teams. They couldn't beat any of the big names other than Na'Vi that was on like debut in the exhibition matches from Blast. And then outside of that, you've got other teams that might be able to get their shit together too. Like Pain is probably in a similar conversation of Astralis, but lacking the player experience, but in terms of like making little steps. Then you've got VP, who is like bipolar as me on any given Sunday. So who the fuck knows what's happening with that team? But again, really strong base of players, and maybe they just need a confident building win for it to click. I don't know about Furia.
And then there's fucking Furia.
I don't know about Furia. But it's just like, this is what so maybe...
I know what you mean. There's like a huge jockeying of position from 5 to 10, essentially.
Yeah, nothing makes sense, right? Well, it's not that nothing makes sense, but it's like the jury's still out on all of it, which is kind of the cool part.
You can't rely on the results because you don't know if they're going to be there again. You don't know if they're going to be consistent. You don't know if you can lean on them.
Which is why it's great that the fucking season finishes in the major, and everything that happens throughout the season builds into the major.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
It all makes sense.
It's all coming around. It's all turning up Counter-Strike all of a sudden.
Oh, thank God. Did we not talk about we didn't talk about lots of teams. Someone in the comments is going to go, these guys.
But we did the group stage last week, and now we're doing the playoffs this week, so we don't have to go back.
The Imperial Valkyries experiment at Tier 1 events. Officially probably done, right?
Well, where are they in the VRS right now? They are 45th. Yes, it's over until they go in, unless Valve fix the loophole. Yeah, but
I thought that already was fixed. I thought that was one of the things that got fixed like late last year.
How?
I thought when we had this conversation, when we saw they initially got invited, it was like the conversation was the rules have already been changed, so this can't happen again.
No, it can happen again. It's just it was going to always work itself out like this unless they had results.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, let's find out. It'll be fun.
So do you think looking back was good that they played these tournaments, or should have turned it down?
I think from a viewership perspective, it was pretty good, right? Like it brought eyeballs. But I think the positive that we felt early with their result in, was it Bounty Online? People already know how I feel about online Counter-Strike. And then the Furia game on LAN with Bubble standing in. Like the positives from there are probably negated, right? Probably equals itself out with the results that they then showed from that point onwards with their full roster, because the caliber of teams that they were losing to were worse than the caliber of teams that they had their more notable results against.
The first match was like there was like the wake up call to the rest of the teams. I don't think any team even came in close to underestimating them or taking that too casually after that. That was maybe the worst thing that could have happened, was them having a close game against Navi.
That's the worst thing that could have happened to them.
In a way, like obviously not the absolute worst, but I think in terms of every team after that, no one is going to slack off in that matchup after you put that kind of a result in, right? You know what I mean?
Looking. Over 2 maps, they won 7 rounds against Complexity. They won 7 rounds against MIBR. They won 9 rounds against Imperial, and that's over 6 maps of play.
I don't think there's a point in actually talking about whether it was a good or a bad decision for them to accept the invites, because I think that's the only decision they could have made, was to say yes. I don't think there's any universe in which they could have said no to those invites. I think saying no would have been worse than saying yes.
23 divide. They won an average of 3.8 rounds per map over 6 maps at Cluj.
No, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect any wild answers. Like, I agree. I think ultimately you can't pass on an opportunity like that. And I think also having that, against Navi and all and everything sort of got them the positive response. But I think it's clear that they're not able to compete on that level at the moment. Right, like it's been Katowice, Bounty, and Cluj, like first 3 big tournaments of the year. So I think people are getting ahead of themselves, and of course they don't deserve hate, far from it. But I think it just tells you that realistically it was more of a loophole that they were able to attend these tournaments, that they are good enough to be participating.
It's not a loophole.
Well, not a loophole. I'm just saying, the mechanism, like the loophole is a bad word, but just the fact how the changes ended up working at the beginning of this year because they were just introduced, right? So,
but but that's the thing though, Yanko, because they're going to go and get LAN wins if they win Impact again. They get LAN wins there and they get prize money. So I don't know what the prize money is there, but it will definitely spike them back up the rankings. In my opinion, the best possible thing that can happen of all of this is Valve see that mechanism and understand that mechanism doesn't work as it is intended to. And they need to also understand that mechanism can be abused. I could run a LAN event in Australia, and I could put up a crazy prize money, and I could create a format that has like a lot of LAN games, and I could only invite, because I could make it regional, and I can be tier 1, and I can only invite people from the region, and you could artificially put a team further in the rankings. That needs to be nipped in the bud. Like, imagine a country that has a lot of wealth that wanted to take advantage of that loophole, right? That could happen.
Yeah.
There's no reason that couldn't happen. So for me, it's not about women's Counter-Strike or anything along those lines. It's about something that is functioning within the VRS that, in my opinion, shouldn't exist. It's got nothing to do with the gender or anything along those lines. I just don't think that the whole point of the VRS and the system that's been implemented for 2025 is meant to be that the circuit is merit-based.
And not
That's
rewarding
closed
point. Circuits.
Exactly. And I feel like some of these things in place are still going to be able to serve that if people want to be malicious about it. And if it's going to be like how Valve look at other things in the game, which is if it gets abused, then they'll fix it. Well, then we're going to have to wait for somebody from the Middle East to put up $1 million tournament and only invite teams from the Middle East, or only invite teams from that one country, and then see what type of impact that has on the rankings, which is hopefully not a real well, it is a real possibility. Hopefully it's not a reality. Yeah.
Fuck it. Let's just get in all the craziness. Let's get it out of the way early. I say we just do it.
If
right
we do
now.
it all in 2025, that's probably better, isn't it?
Yeah, let's get it all out in 1 year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I wish the conversation around like women's teams is like, I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to see a women's team compete at tier 1. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think the best thing that
women's players playing.
I think the next progression
else.
is a women's player gets picked out of the women's league and is on a tier 2 team and does some cool things, maybe qualifies to an event, maybe goes deep, and then another woman does the same thing. And I think we're going to get individual women being placed in tier 2 teams. And then hopefully we find one that's good enough and that a tier 1 team wants to take a chance on and actually steps up to the plate and delivers on it. And that's how we're going to start getting women more involved in tier 1 Counter-Strike, is one by one. It's not going to be a team.
Isn't that kind of what we'd want anyway, right? Like the fact that
I don't see a problem with it in any way.
Yeah, well, I don't either. I think the only problem is, they're having to deal with young men. That could be one of the only, and that's one of the problems that they come into with it, whether it's, matchmaking or face it or whatever.
Yep.
Because the way that, I don't want to say it's, I'm not trying to say it's an okay thing. It's a very bad thing, right? But that's one of the biggest obstacles that they come up against, which is terrible. But I agree that's the way that I expect things to go too. Like, and that's the best because, again, Counter-Strike, and the reason that Counter-Strike exists in the way it has for so long is because the game has always felt like it's been merit-based, right? It's been like, if you're good enough, then you can play. And that's really like, that's why, you get underdog stories, which are exciting. The Mongols is the best example of that in recent history, and that people get behind those. But overall, like, if you're good enough, then you can play. And that's what I think should be the case anyway. So we'll see how that evolves. But I think there were positives to the whole thing and there were negatives to the whole thing, and they essentially equal each other out in the long run.
Yeah.
But yeah. We didn't want to do any more format chat, did we? I'll save this when I do my other podcast in a couple of hours' time.
We can if you want to.
No, it's fine. Because I'll probably try and bounce some things off Striker who should have answers. Whereas like right now I'm trying to piece things together myself. Yeah, I'm just looking at like the incentives that ESL have for the rev share and kind of how that works for teams, because it's the opt-in, right? Like teams have to, everyone can go and find it. There's a full agreement which teams are being presented ahead of the tournament participation can be found here, and people can go and find that. Like you can literally, it's a whole Google Drive document that tells you. It's only 4 pages long, which is pretty good, and it shows you how much club reward money there is to be split between teams and everything along those lines.
Just a little bit of light Tuesday afternoon reading,
4 pages of a Google document. Pretty good.
It's beautiful.
Can we talk about EPL?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so first thing, I guess, for all the viewers who've been tuning into EPL for the last couple of seasons, the long and the short of this, I don't really want to get into the weeds of it, but if anybody has been paying attention, we were speaking about this when EPL was in a rough spot before we got largely
Season
involved.
17.
Yeah, and we did a lot of talking about this on Talking Counter, so if you're a newer viewer, maybe you missed that. If you're an older viewer, hopefully you remember it. Coming up with ideas, and we were talking a lot on this show about like what level of input we were having. That level of input is being dramatically scaled back going into this season, and all foreseeable seasons as it currently stands. So that is basically something that we talked to ESL about, because it's when you were doing an EPL season for 5 weeks or 3 weeks, or now it's going to be 2.5, and you're doing a lot of extra things that wouldn't normally be within your roles, it can become quite taxing. And we were very happy to feel more involved within the show, and we feel that we put on a fun event, because the tournament format and all that stuff was probably not the most exciting team-wise. We tried to talk to ESL and come to some type of agreement of how we could continue to do that going forward, but I think we can just say that we didn't come to an agreement of how we could continue doing that going forward. So we will continue to have a similar vibe for EPL, like with the TriCast and everything along those lines. But
a little bit more laid back, a little bit more fun, a little bit more friendly.
That's what everybody's used to. But I would say in terms of as many pieces of content or skits or live segments or that type of stuff, that is going to be
severely
either not produced by us. We'll still probably be involved in them. But a lot of the ideas will just be rehashed things that we came out with in the past. We will not be contributing on the same level that we have previously. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there, because I already saw like a HLTV thread today with someone saying they were looking forward to EPL and listing, some of the reasons. And,
a lot of those reasons do not apply.
Yes, the show will probably still hopefully be fun, because we're going to go and do our best job that we can, but just know that we're not going to be as involved as we previously have been. So, yeah. That's the most political way to talk about this, isn't it?
That was a nice way, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it's important to do that, because first of all, right, like if people are like, why aren't they doing these things? And they know that we've been heavily involved in the past, like then they're going to think that we're being like lazy cunts, but that's not the case. We wanted to contribute more across all of ESL's products, to be completely honest with everybody playing at home, but we can't come to an agreement with ESL. So
that was just a coincidence that time.
yeah.
I think also I like for people to, probably for the next episode or something, as we get into it, like how much will people notice?
Yeah, probably not much, to be honest.
Because a lot of the stuff that, we came up with over the last couple of seasons are going to be used here still.
Well, hold up, Yanko. Tom Eric had the idea first. We just executed it first.
Jason.
They weren't our ideas.
Another
Yanko.
coincidence.
we just did them.
We just said them out loud first
and executed on them.
Yeah.
They weren't our ideas.
Oh my God, so many coincidences.
Jason, shut up. I'm out here telling the truth to the people. Anyway, sorry, back. Yanko, keep going.
No, yeah, I think that's just that. But we'll see. Obviously, the format is different. There's going to be more games, and once you have 4 games a day, there's really not that much space in between to fill it with content and all that much. So just in general, focus more likely going to be on the cast, which is what we all like doing the most, pretty much.
Like Hugo B. Byron once said, all Counter-Strike, all day, all the time, all Counter-Strike. I don't even know where he went from there. But
that's a great skit. I can't believe that didn't end up on the YouTube.
I feel like that should just be everywhere, actually.
Maybe copyright, because it's...
No. That's the... No, we won't. No, we won't,
Never mind, Chad.
Hold it in, Chad. Hold it in!
Don't do it, Chad.
I'm holding it in.
Woosah.
I'm holding it in. I'm holding it all the way in. I'm pressing it down deep into the darkness where the rest of it lives.
You need a new therapist, for fuck's sake.
No. I do like the seeding system that we're going for. I don't know if
for Pro League, the
self-seeded,
the team self-seeding.
Exactly. Exactly that, Jason O'Toole. Let me find the self-seeding so that we can have a quick convo.
That's in our chat.
Which is short for conversation about that. I'll put it in the chat here. Here it is. Bang, just under Jimmy's Guna link. So yeah. Oh, can you guys... You're going to have to copy and paste that. Okay, so I'll read it out. I'll go through what the team seeding had us with, and then we can talk about some of the biggest outliers. We're going to do it on the show as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
Eternal Fire, Pain, 3D Max, Furia, Gamer Legion, Heroic, MIBR, FlyQuest. That's 1 to 8 for stage
team
1.
seeding.
Yeah, and then after that goes M80, Namiga, Saw, NRG, Linvision, Tyloo, House Bets, and Mindfreak. The last 2, if people aren't too familiar with those names, are both Aussie teams. And it's quite similar with the VRS. Like, so the VRS at that point would have had House Bets, Mindfreak, Tyloo, Linvision, NRG all in that order as the bottom 5 teams, which actually matches up with what the team seeding is. Then M80 have actually been seeded lower than Nemiga and Saw. So
Hell yeah, they have. What do you know? Do you know when they gathered all these from the teams for this?
Only
kind
about
of
a week ago, I think.
A week ago, okay. So it wasn't too long ago.
It wasn't too long. And also what's going to happen is after we have all of these teams go from stage 1 and qualify for stage 2 to join the bigger names, like the Liquids, the Vitalities, everybody bar FaZe, essentially, they will do this again. So the next batch of 16 teams will do the team seeding again, and we will have some content around that on the show to talk about, why these choices were made and everything along those lines. So I think, it
doesn't seem to be any kind of crazy, nothing like jumping off the page in terms of a massive difference. I guess.
But I think it'll be more interesting in the second week.
Yeah,
when
it definitely
we actually
will be.
know. Yeah, when we actually know, like, because the bigger teams seeding one another will tell us more about, like, how they feel against one another from practice and everything. Whereas a lot of these teams here, we're looking at some lower field teams, so we're not hugely, like, honestly, like NRG and stuff, or the House Bets or Mindfreak, there's very low expectations of those teams. So to see them get seeded low, it's like, yeah, okay, they probably should be seeded low. I think I like the fact that this is in play as a seeding system as opposed to using the seeding system from the VRS, because the VRS, like Yanko, I think you said there was you used the term lag, and I think that will play into the VRS, and it also, as we discussed, is not like a HLTV ranking to be from like 1 to 16 or 1 to whatever. It's more like just to group the best teams in the sections that they should be grouped, or at least that's my take on what the VRS is meant to be. Whereas this can kind of be more accurate on what the temperature check is from all of the teams. So I think it's cool. We've used it before. Was it 2019 was the major they used it at last time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been Katowice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's best of 3 Swiss, 2 rounds of that stage 1, stage 2, and then an 8-team playoff bracket for the playoffs, which is nice to see. So,
8-team playoff bracket. Oh,
but
it's
studio.
so beautiful. Well, look, baby steps. We take the wins where we
wins.
can. We got to look at the positives.
That's true. That is true. $1 million all up because of the club share.
NRG is going to be my sleeper pick at Pro League.
Really?
Yeah.
For what?
Okay. To put him to sleep.
To win one of the 3 series they'll play.
Wow.
I know. I'm taking a big risk. I'm going out on a limb here, Yanko.
There's 3 Australian teams there and 2 Chinese teams, and that's the ceiling that you picked for them.
I'm going out on a limb. No, I don't know. It's interesting. And I think they just have, I'll always root for Nitro. I think it's part of it. I don't know how good they'll do, but Bro is a really interesting pickup for this team. Just to be honest with you, I'm just really curious to see how that whole situation works.
Well, it's been working. They qualified for Dallas, didn't they?
Yeah, they've been doing good within the North American region. But what's interesting about it the most is that they dropped Breeze to bring him in, which is like, obviously for the past few years hasn't been doing anything, but at one point like a massive heavy hitter within the North American scene, and they've gone for more of like a role player out of Denmark. So I don't know. It just seems like a team that's actually constituted, making decisions that's like targeted for some attribute versus just picking up big names, which is really rare, I feel like, in the North American scene. So I'm curious about what damage this team can do on an international scale.
As Marvin Hagler once said, Jason, it's tough to get out of bed. Oh, wait. It's tough to get out of bed to do road work at 5 a.m. when you've been sleeping in silk pajamas. And I'm going to say that Breeze, with that EG money, has been sleeping in silk pajamas for a very long time. So not seeing him return to the form necessary isn't too surprising, to be completely honest.
No, I wasn't shocked by it either. I was more shocked by the selection of Bro, picking up a Danish guy for an All-American roster.
Well, he doesn't need to get vaccinated because he's already had Brovid-19. So
booyah! There it is. There it is. We should just end on that. That's a high note.
You want to end it there? We can end it
there.
We can go for a while.
I just wanted to do that just in case, but we can end it there.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're fine. We might do one more from...
We got Media Day on Friday, right?
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe at some point.
We could do one on Friday night, maybe, and bring in somebody who's
there. Yeah.
Look, maybe Harry or who else?
Yeah, or Alex.
Yeah.
Or Henry.
the talent announcement, not it, Jason. You're spoiling it all. We'll do it. We'll spoil it all for everybody. It's going to be the three of us. It's going to be Machine. It's going to be Henry G. It's going to be Harry and Hugo. It's going to be Joshua Steele, Nissan, and then it's going to be Freya and Trace. That's going to be the 10 of us, and then I'll save the last one because that one people might actually be interested in, whereas the rest of us people probably not so interested. But yeah, that's it. That's everything.
So if you'd like any of those 10 people to join us on the podcast, feel free to send in recommendations or who you'd like to. There's no guarantee that we'll consider it in any way when we choose the guest.
Who do you think would be the least likely to join if we did it in any given order?
As the talent?
I reckon least likely to join would be Henry.
Yeah, probably.
Then after that,
As a guest,
yeah,
Freya.
No, she'd
Freya-
be keen.
Freya would
She'd
join.
hop on for
She's
sure.
so busy all the time.
No,
True.
she'd make time for us.
I reckon Hugo would be up there.
I think
and
it's-
unlikely to join.
See, I think it's like Henry, and then the other 9 are all tied for. I think they'd probably 90% say yes.
Okay, so you included us in the character count. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Well, that's true. We do have
We
to
do have-
begrudgingly do this every
right.
week
I know, for fuck's sake.
because I said the New Year's resolution was we were going to be sponsored in 2025, but
We got 10 months left.
10 months left.
we've continued to ignore the same email from the same dodgy website for a year and a half now. So guys, we're going to keep ignoring it, but just remember, everybody else is getting richer.
I know. Let's just say this. It'll be like one of those, like, you know, if we're not together, if we're not married by like the age of 40, we just do it with. Let's just say if we don't have a
Okay.
sponsor within like the next 4
By
months.
2028,
No. I'm thinking sooner than that, Chad. I'm thinking 4 months. We take all the dodgy shit.
wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not how principles work, Jason.
But
Unlike love.
I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah. Okay. Well, now let's do a longer timeline, Jason. Let's say by 2028,
2028. If we're
because I
not
reckon
sponsored,
we can ride it out until then. That's only another 3 more years.
and when people bitch, we can be like, guys, we gave it a good shot for 5 years. You know,
That's true.
You know,
if we didn't
like,
get a real sponsor after 5 years of doing an episode almost every week, I think at that point, you know,
Yeah.
we got to do something.
just let us have the shady gambling money. Let's go.
Yeah, guys, let us
Come
take all the
on.
dodgy money.
Jesus. It's so selfish.
Not going to be
Man,
me.
These fucking principles,
It's
man.
so selfish.
I have very few of them. But I do have
This just happened. What our luck. This is the one place.
And the one place that wants to keep giving us money does unregulated gambling, man. Like, fuck, man.
Fuck you and your principles.
God damn it.
Sorry,
Fuck our
guys.
lives, right?
Oh,
All
my
right.
God. All right.
drinks
Let's
on
go out
me
here
in
and-
Sweden.
Yeah.
Make up for it. It's about the same amount.
Yeah, well, it's only about fucking 20 euros a beer in fucking Sweden, so.
Perfect.
Good thing you
But we
drink
are in a
only
nice
water.
hotel.
We are in a nice hotel.
Yeah, in a nice area.
In
There's
a nice
Yeah.
area.
nice stuff around. So yeah.
All right, let's get the fuck
All
out
right,
of here.
let's get out.
Goodbye.